The spread of the coronavirus is being caused by you. Yes, you. You who chose to interact with others while you are sick or not adhering to social distancing guidelines. You who find it impossible to remain inside rather than going outside for non-essential things. Trust me, I miss being outside too, but the government can do so much and still not achieve its target if you refuse to listen. Each one, help one. Do your part in preventing the spread of the coronavirus. I know you know what to do. Welcome to Jamaica Magazine. I'm Theodore Henry. We have an interesting show lined up just for you, so stay tuned as your favorite magazine unfolds.
The National Solid Waste Management Authority, NSWMA, wishes to advise the public that the Mandela Park in St. Andrew is closed. This is in adherence with government's restrictions on gatherings in public spaces. The halfway tree-based park will be closed until further notice. The NSWMA will continue to closely monitor the announcements of the Ministry of Health and Wellness to make decisions in the best interest of the citizens of Jamaica.
The BPO sector in Jamaica employs approximately 40,000 persons. The closure is necessary for us to assess and determine whether or not there is a systemic breakdown in the management, supervision, and practices in BPO operations in the parish, and to contain the spread of the virus within the sector, as we know that staff are circulated to branches. So you could have an outbreak in a branch in St. Catherine, and some members leave, go to Montego, come to Kingston, they train together, they might exchange them on accounts. So it is quite possible that if there is poor management in one branch, it could affect a branch that has good management, or a branch outside of the parish. So you really need to stop the movement so you can truly assess what is happening in the parish. And that is one of the main reasons why we have put a stop. Here I would like to emphasize that all employees at the affected call center have been placed under 14 days quarantine. We have received reports that some employees are trying to seek employment elsewhere. We have got one report of an employee coming from the affected BPO trying to get employment in Hanover. Yes. So, Mr. Speaker, no, it's not as a result of that. Remember, they live all over. Yes, so there are some living in St. Catherine, some in Kingston and St. Andrew, some in Clarendon. So they might be trying to get employment elsewhere. And it's a highly mobile employment situation because BPOs are always looking for people who are already trained. So I wish to use this platform to say to other BPOs, you would be assisting the violation of the quarantine if you employ someone who is an employee of the BPO in question, who has not completed the quarantine. It would be covered under the Quarantine Act, I believe. So it's the Quarantine Act that would address that. So I would say, Mr. Speaker, I would advise the other BPOs, it is in your interest not to accept anyone until the quarantine period has ended. And the Ministry of Health will declare when the quarantine period has ended. Right now, we need to have everyone just stand still that is related to this particular BPO. We have had discussions with the leadership of the Business Process Industry Association regarding their operating protocols, Mr. Speaker, and the BPIAJ has been very receptive and proactive in implementing measures. Our public health officials have reviewed these protocols and they are satisfied that the protocols are robust, and the issue now, Mr. Speaker, is just how diligently that these protocols will be observed and followed. We are therefore including a number of these protocols in the new order, including temperature checks of persons prior to entry, strict spacing requirement, and social distancing within the workplace. This is to ensure that BPOs, Mr. Speaker, these new protocols, this is to ensure that these new protocols will have the force of law. Mr. Speaker, I am putting all BPO operators on notice, Mr. Speaker, that the Ministry of Health and the Jamaica Special Economic Zone Authority will be reviewing their operations to ensure that they are in keeping with the standards set out by the Ministry of Health and with the requirements of their license.
Tip number 1. Keep your regular medication and other supplies well stocked. Ensure there is access to several weeks of medications and supplies in case there is a need for you to stay home. Monitor food and other medical supplies needed and create a plan in the event that such resources become depleted. Tip number 2. Stay sanitized. Tip number 3. Respond to multi-generational living situations. Many older adults live in homes where other members, such as children, may have frequent colds. Therefore, do not share personal items like food, water bottles, and utensils. If possible, choose a room in your home that can be used to separate sick household members from those who are healthy. Tip number 4. Develop intentional caregiver plans. Older adults may be caregivers or may receive care themselves. Caregivers and care recipients should discuss their preparation plans, including how to stay in touch via phone or email. Determine who can provide you with care if your caregiver gets sick. And tip number 5. Keep abreast of essential up-to-date information. That means you should find and regularly check a trusted information source.
During this global pandemic, children are spending more time at home, given the closure of schools. For some, it may be traumatic because they are now at greater risk of being abused. Parents, take this time to talk to your children about their bodies and develop a relationship that may result in open communication between you both. Let us learn to protect our children. They need us.
I say be careful what you teach your little children. Make sure I know something to hurt them. Mind what you saying to my sister. She could be the next prime minister.
Sexual abuse is always a very difficult thing to confront, particularly when the alleged victim is a child. Parents, if it is that you suspect that your child has been sexually abused, or is in a vulnerable set of circumstances where an abuse may occur, we encourage you to have dialogue with your child. Take the child to the pediatrician who normally attends to the child. If there is no such pediatrician, take your child to the clinic, to the hospital, to some medical practitioner who can do an assessment for you. It's very important as well that we don't just look at the physical side, but we also seek to find the kind of psychosocial support that a child may need. Does the child need a session with a counselor? Does the child need to speak with a pastor who is used to dealing with these issues? Does the child need to get that ongoing psychological support to assist with the healing process and also to assist the child in becoming strong enough, as it were, to deal with the various processes that will follow once it is that you suspect an abuse has occurred. If it is that the child actually discloses, when you engage the child in discussion, that yes, mommy and daddy, I was abused, we encourage you to entertain the child, to listen to what the child has to say to you, and to take it very seriously. So we really urge you to have those discussions and to seek guidance in terms of, do I speak to the police about this, which we always say you have to, because once a child has been sexually abused, it's a criminal matter, and it means that once at all possible, the child should be assisted to go through the processes so that the perpetrator can in fact be held accountable. Support your child and let them understand in very clear terms that they are not the cause or the reason for this abuse having been perpetrated. But the most important element is to support them, get them access to the services that they need, and give them a chance to have you give them that listening ear. For these tips, and of course any other information that deals with children, that is anyone under 18 years, please feel free to contact the Office of the Children's Advocate. We're at 72 Harbour Street, downtown Kingston, and our numbers are 948-1134, or website www.oca.gov.jm. Thank you.
Watch what you teach your little children. Make sure I know something to hurt them. Mind what you saying to me sister, cause she could be the next Prime Minister.
Are you aware of how Jamaican adolescents use social media? What do they do online? What do they post? Do you know if they are being harassed? These are questions you should be asking yourself, because it is your duty to keep your children safe online. Parents, here's what you need to do. Be active online and offline. Help your child to set up his or her online profile. Make sure you familiarize yourself with the different social media applications that they use and set some rules. Protect our nation's children and save them from cybercriminal attacks.
There are many among us that have long mastered the concept of working from home. But for the majority, businesses and individuals alike, it's a new foreign concept. In that mix are persons whose means of earning simply does not translate to a homework environment, or so it may seem. Let's explore some options. First, if you are socially engaging and have a passion for anything, consider creating content for online. YouTube is a great platform for this. To get started, all you need is a device that can record video. A phone with a decent camera would suffice, and a subject that you're knowledgeable and passionate about. Create your own YouTube page and begin to upload. Over time, as you build an audience, you can begin to earn from ads placed on YouTube, as well as sponsorships that come directly to you. For those whose places of employment have directed them to take their work tasks home, the important thing is to ensure you remain productive. Unlike the 9-to-5 routine of the physical work environment, your home is likely to come with a lot of distractions as you try to navigate around other family members and the fact you don't have a boss physically there to check in on you. It will be important to formulate a routine that will allow you to complete the work that is required of you. Try creating a things to do list and put a timestamp on it. For example, between 9 a.m. and noon is when you will complete that report your manager has asked for. This will work more effectively if it's shared with family members, not the details, but the timelines, so they know when not to disturb you. Depending on the type of business, working from home could require access to the company's network or the transfer of data. And this brings me to my third and final point. Companies will need to put infrastructures in place to ensure their employees can access all the information and resources needed to maintain productivity in the home spaces. This may involve providing laptops with required software for connectivity. Employers will also need to institute an accountability system to check in with workers to ensure they are actually performing.
We are trying to put in place the measures bearing in mind that it is not the intention of the government to shut down the economy. What we are trying to do is to institute the measures that we believe will inure to greater practice of social distancing, which is what is now being recommended as the most effective way of controlling the spread of COVID-19.
Practice good hygiene by washing your hands frequently using soap and water. Here's how you should do it while conserving water. Turn on the tap to wet your hands, then turn off the pipe. Lather your hands and the tap with soap. Turn on the tap and wash your hands, back, front, and in between fingers. Use some of the water to wash off the tap, then turn it off. Dry your hands with disposable hand towels. If you don't have running water, use a hand rub containing 62% or more alcohol. If hand sanitizers are not available, rubbing alcohol, Dettol, white rum, or household bleach will do the trick. And if all else fails, let hand washing and the handling of potable water be a two-person event. Each person will take turns pouring and washing hands with sitting water. Now is a good time to consider installing a tap on your containers to reduce the risk of water contamination. Faucets can be easily attached to drums, buckets, or 5-gallon water bottles. And to ensure that the outside of the containers are clean when recapping, disinfect it with hand rub containing alcohol that's 62% or more. The 5 R's of water conservation are also necessary to practice. Reduce water wastage by investing in water-saving devices. Reuse water at least twice before discarding. Replace leaking pipes, faucets, and other plumbing equipment. Recycle wastewater and use it for gardening, car washing, or cleaning of public spaces. And reclaim water through rainwater harvesting. We all must play our part to ensure there's water to combat the coronavirus and stave off prolonged drought.
Wash your hands frequently and maintain a 3 to 6 feet distance from persons.
Families across the country are adapting to the evolving changes in daily life caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Most schools, places of public gathering, and non-essential businesses are closed, and parents and other caregivers are faced with helping families adjust to the new normal. This includes trying to keep children adequately informed during the outbreak. If you want to know how you can ensure that your children are equipped with the right amount of information they need about COVID-19, follow these next steps. The first thing you have to do is make time to talk to them. Talk to your children daily about the latest news and updates, and be sure to let them know that they can come to you if and when they have questions. When talking to children, ensure that you use words and sentences that are most suitable for their age group. This is the only way to ensure that the child receives and understands the information being shared. Let your children develop the habit of watching the news with you, but ensure that the information is credible and that information overload does not occur, because this can lead to anxiety. The outbreak of the coronavirus has brought with it numerous reports of racial discrimination around the world and general misinformation. So, it's important to check that your children are neither experiencing nor contributing to bullying. Make time to clarify all rumors and discriminatory claims. Explain to children how they can stay safe during the period. Talk to them about the importance of a balanced diet, social distancing, hand washing, sanitization, and other important safety measures. Children may inevitably become worried about all the changes happening around them due to COVID-19, but it is your duty as parents to assure them that steps are being taken every day to keep them safe. Impress upon them that rather than be worried, they should be prepared.
The government has been getting not necessarily requests, but persons seeking an understanding of government's position on the wearing of masks. And I'm going to invite the CMO to give us her guidance on this matter.
The Ministry of Health recommends the use of personal protective equipment by healthcare personnel. Our immediate priority is to secure personal protective equipment for health workers who are exposed by close contact with persons who are ill. Close contact means that health workers are within the 6 feet distance from their patients, and the wearing of personal protective equipment protects them from exposure. They cannot avoid close contact in order to care for patients, and that is why personal protective equipment are a must. The proper use of personal protective equipment by the health worker reduces the risk from high risk to no risk, even in environments of highest possible exposure. But even the highest trained healthcare worker has to be trained repeatedly in the donning and doffing of personal protective equipment. And the area where there is one of the greatest risk of infection is in the removal of a contaminated mask. The general public is encouraged to avoid close contact with possibly infected persons by several measures, including stay at home, avoid crowded situations, and avoid ill persons. Now, many persons are advocating for the routine wearing of masks by the general public. And yes, we agree that it can be helpful. It does offer some protection, especially where there are persons who are coughing and sneezing within your 3 to 6 feet personal space. It is not totally harmless, however, and the public must be cautious. Wearing a mask continuously is uncomfortable, and you must avoid touching and adjusting the mask, as if the mask is contaminated, you will contaminate your hands and infect yourselves and others. Perform hand hygiene every time you touch the mask. As soon as there is contamination of the mask, it must be discarded, as the risk gets higher of you contaminating yourself. If the mask is not worn properly, it will go up into your eyes. Do not rub or touch your eyes after touching the mask. Again, hand sanitize after touching the mask. Discard the mask if it becomes soiled or moist. This increases your risk of infecting yourself and others. You may be taking germs on the mask into several different settings and increasing the risk of transmission. Remove the mask by grasping the loops that are either at the back of your head or behind your ears and pulling forward and away from your face. Do not touch the front of the mask. The Ministry of Health and Wellness recommends the use of masks by persons who are ill with coughing and sneezing, persons who are quarantined or isolated at home with or without respiratory symptoms, and household members who care for the person or are in the same house. Persons who have COVID-19 and have been discharged from hospital should wear a mask for 2 weeks after they have been released and exercise infection protection control measures to safeguard family members. Persons who are at high risk of developing severe illness and complications of illnesses, such as the elderly and persons with chronic illnesses. These persons must avoid ill persons and minimize contact with the public. All other considerations are at the public's discretion. The wearing of the mask must be in addition to other infection control measures, such as regular hand washing and hand sanitizing, covering coughs and sneezes, and avoid touching your faces and avoid contact with ill persons.
A facial barrier can be helpful, whether it is a medical type mask like an N95, or maybe something like this, or probably something like this. It's a pretty nice looking mask. However, there are risks associated with them, and they are not substitutes for good practices that we have been saying. Washing the hands with soap and water. If you don't have, then sanitize. If you have to cough or sneeze, then the bend of your elbow is best, and don't touch anyone else afterwards. Maintaining your social distance. All of that is good. This would be in addition to. But the mask is a surface. And particularly in a situation where it is blocking the particles from coming in, they will rest on the surface. And like any other surface, the virus will live on it. So you have to be careful in, as you say, doffing, that is taking it off. So you can't hold the mask like this to take it off. You should take it off from here. If you're going to make that personal decision, then you should firstly seek not to deprive the medical professionals who would need the mask. But outside of that, it's your personal choice, bearing in mind the guidance that we have given.
Thanks for watching another edition of Jamaica Magazine. Do join us again tomorrow when we'll do this all over again. Remember to follow us on our social media pages and even check out our website at jis.gov.jm. Also feel free to send your feedback on today's show to Jamaica Magazine at jis.gov.jm. On behalf of the entire production crew, I'm Theodore Henry. Thanks for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.